What do you want?
That's a, well, you use it.
They ran an extra pen, we share.
I got it.
We got it, we got it.
We got you one,
We
right?
got it.
Got it. Got plenty of them.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I can use that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
Say Flintstone.
Did you get your extension cord?
did.
Thank you very much. Just remember me,
Okay.
remember at the end. Everyone.
Okay, we started.
Oh, that's cool.
We can start.
Okay, let's rise. Let's pledge allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance. There we go. What am I getting? Are you getting up?
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Usually skip it. Memorial Day weekend.
For which it stands, one nation, under God.
Usually. Where'd you get the tomatoes? Too. Safari. They're always good. So sweet. Claire.
How do you know?
Oh, it's dropping out. No, it's on.
Okay, they're muted.
Okay, Joe, I think we're gonna go into executive session or going to. Are we going to do the subdivision?
Yeah, I think the first thing is the applicant continuation of the hearing on the application of the merger of the properties.
Correct.
738, 742, and subdivision of the merged property into 3 lots.
Right, okay.
I have copies of the site plan. The board, the most recent version. You want to pass this, please? So this was, I don't want to speak for Mr. Hume, but just this procedurally, what's going on with this is that we received an amended site plan on, the ZBA received an amended site plan on April 14th. And that was considered at a public meeting that we had of the ZBA public hearing. And then was subsequently approved subject to conditions at a meeting of the ZBA on May 10th. We had a written decision that was approved at that meeting, subject to some edits to it. We got an edited version was circulated with this to the ZBA, but however, we got the transcript of that meeting, which is what 220 pages. We just got it today at 5 o'clock for 4:30. So we have a subject to the ZBA signing off on that decision, and then filing it with the village clerk. It's been approved by the ZBA.
Okay.
You know, there might be minor changes in the that decision, but the decision itself becomes final when it's filed with the village clerk. But we do have, I feel that we should have the public hearing on this tonight on that most recent plan. So what happened? You want to explain? Please go ahead. So what happened on this? The final plan, what the changes were, was some changes in the setback, basically changing the setback. So they added up, they more or less reflected for the 4/10 rule. And also so that the where the houses, where the where the house on the easterly lot and the house on the westerly lot were located within that within those lots. Which are not exactly centered on the lot. The middle lot, the house on the middle lot is centered on that lot. So there was also, I'm sorry, apologies. There's also one thing to be considered by this board in this application, which is that the northerly line of the 3 houses was discussed and a condition of the ZBA. And that was part of the decision that was made. So, and that's all I have to say. Procedurally, I can answer any questions as Mr. Hugh moves along with this presentation.
Good evening, James O'Neill from the NBC for the applicant. With me tonight is Alex Antonacci, principal of the LLC that owns the properties. As Mr. Prokop, we were we're seeking to merge 2 lots and to create thereafter 3 lots, all of which are in excess of 40,000 square feet, making them still 3 of the largest lots and existing lots in the village. After much productive discussion over time, especially the last couple of meetings with the zoning board, a number of conditions were discussed and reached that relate to the side yard setbacks that Mr. Prokop discussed, so as to maximize the view between the houses. Issues were discussed about where to place accessory structures, where to place principal structures, and things of that nature. The zoning board determination even drills down to the was it the bunny hut? Is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever the structure is, and requires an offer of donation prior to destruction, and if the donation is accepted, payment of to offset some of the costs related to that. So at the last zoning board hearing, the ZBA decision was reviewed. As Mr. Prokop indicated, there were some relatively minor edits that were all understood and agreed to. Thereafter, the zoning board voted to adopt secra and then voted to adopt the variances. So I think we're here today to seek the approval of the planning board for the subdivision as constituted as a result of the zoning variances.
So, we understand that all of the side yard setbacks have been met.
Yes, yeah, there 13 and 19 on the 2 outside lots and 16 and 16 on the internal lot.
And at the northern boundary of the home, the restrictions on that have been met also.
Yes,
I think those are the most crucial of the issues.
yes.
Yeah, from what I recall, I believe there's only a restriction, a wetland restriction on all lots,
Right,
but only a northerly restriction on the easternmost lot.
Right.
right. But they all line up.
Well, the decision reflects the fact that the homes can actually be located,
Yeah,
slide up and back within the principal building envelope.
right,
The building envelopes that are on this map are in part driven by the wetlands, but also in part driven by a reduction that was agreed to with the zoning board. And as it pertains to the most eastern lot, there was a further agreement about setting that back further, so as not to interfere with the existing home to the east. Yes,
Yeah.
that's existing. The existing home to the east.
Right. What are variances have been approved?
Well, the main one is the lot width. And okay, well, as to lot 1 is lot width and then the side yard relief. As to lot B, there's lot width and side yard relief. And as to lot C, there's lot width and side yard relief.
that's it.
That's it.
There's a substantial amount of scenic easement.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's one of the conditions of the decision is that the 33,592 square feet of the northern end of the existing property is going to be covenant as a non-disturbance. Subject only to the variance, provided that we can put a walkway across that area to get to the water.
Right.
But I understand also that the zoning board did not impose any particular front yard setbacks, and they're relying basically on the code or the alignment within, I think it's 200 feet of any existing house to line up
Correct.
eventually, but that's actually a code issue.
Yes, yeah.
That's something that has to be imposed either by this board or the zoning board.
Well, the village code itself applies
That's correct.
across the board, except to the extent that the zoning board specifically granted a variance.
Right.
So to the extent that a variance was not granted by the zoning board, we're subject to the requirements of the
Correct,
village
right.
code.
And that limits the sliding back and
I
forth.
believe it does,
Right.
So
relative.
it starts with the house on the east. That
Right.
sets the boundary for the lot B and then C.
Yes,
It's a 10-foot offset per house.
Right,
yes, so the village code would control that.
Control that, right?
Yes.
So the relief that was granted, each house got each lot got 4 variances.
Mhm.
It's a lot width variance on each of the properties. It's a combined combined side yard variance and 2 minimum side yard variances on each. So there's a total of 12 variances, 4 in each lot. And it basically, like I said, the idea was to bring it to the 4/10 rule, which is more or less what these side yards ended up being.
But one of those 4 variances on each lot is for the benefit of the lots across the street because it improves their view. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The way it was adjusted.
Right.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
way
to
the way the house
provide
was
more
adjusted.
width between A and
Right.
B and B and C.
Yeah, it's not that we can do 4/10, it's that we have to do 13, 19, 16,
Yeah.
16,
right.
Yeah,
19, 13. You have to,
Yeah.
that's a
the
requirement.
variance is for the benefit
Yes.
of all.
So I would open up to public comment.
Does the public got any comments? Let's make sure.
Erwin Krasnow, 929 Dune Road. I think, I'm on the zoning board, and we spent 2 years working on this project, and I think we came up with a solution that, Mr. Antonacci can live with and the neighbors can live with, and we try to provide view shed corridors for the neighbors across the street and work also with the neighbor to the east to try to mitigate any possible views that he might have. But the question I have is, I think this property was originally owned by Peter Fenner, or the Fenner family. And when the property came on the market originally, before Mr. Fenton actually got involved to purchase it, did the village consider purchasing the property through the CPF funds and keeping it as open space? Since that was originally what Peter Fenner was hoping would happen with the property prior to his unfortunate demise.
But that was not his plan. His plan was to his son and daughter to build a house there.
Right. That's why
he divided.
I knew
it into
Peter
lots.
pretty well. And
Well,
I-
that's with the neighbors across the street said he planned on not developing it, but, okay, so if that's the case, that's fine. But did the village consider purchasing the property through the CPF funds to keep it as open space?
No, we did not.
Why?
Well, we did not have the option because he sold it privately before. There were many neighbors that were told they could purchase the property. And it was sold before that was an option.
But it was
And the- and the-
not-
It was sold, it was
the village-
sold
it wasn't a
privately.
secret. Well,
It was
The
sold
village cannot
privately.
unilaterally purchase the property
Right.
unless they want to exercise eminent domain.
Yeah.
no, I didn't know. I didn't say.
The purchase of the property under the CPF requires a willing seller.
Right.
Right, but once the
Fenner
seller,
has not been a willing seller.
once the seller was willing to sell.
No.
Mr. International didn't buy the property from the seller who wasn't willing. So once the seller, I just wanted to know, I just asked if you would explore the option.
Well, I think
to keep
we
it as-
answered that.
To keep it as open
I
space.
think we answered that.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Any other comments?
None.
It's a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, did we have any comments online?
No.
No.
So it's a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion makes sense.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So the first, one of the things about this is the zoning board did the seeker review. The zoning board adopted lead agency status on this application and performed a seeker review of the variances in the subdivision. You could also, you could vote to adopt the zoning board's decision on seeker, which is that it adopted a conditional negative declaration, which means that there would not be a significant negative impact on the environment provided the conditions of the decision were met, which include the dedication of 33,000 square feet of non-developable space that the space is agreed not, will be covenanted, not to be developed. So that's one thing. The other thing that I just want to point out to you, I'm not sure how this board is going to deal with this, but as I said, the ZBA approved this on May 10th, subjects to edits made in the decision. And edits were made based on some notes that we made that night. But this is the transcript of that evening. And then 220 pages, and this still has to be going through to make sure that we pick everything up. So, and then finally, the ZBA decision is not actually in force until it gets filed, signed by Eric Soretsky and filed with the village clerk.
When will that be?
Probably Tuesday, I would say. Tuesday or Wednesday.
I think we make a motion to accept secret.
Okay, so the motion is the motion would be to adopt the secret determination that was made by the zoning board of appeals and determined based on the part 1, part 2, and part 3 that were filed with the village and approved by the zoning board of appeals, that the approval of the subdivision will not have a significant negative impact on the environment, provided the conditions of the decision are met, the ZBA decision. It had several conditions, one of which was this non-disturbance area. And that would be the motion regarding secret.
Okay, yep.
Second,
I'll second it.
Gary, all in favor?
Aye.
Gary,
Who's second, Gary?
not opposed. Okay, so now we have to wait till that's,
The cleanest way to do it is to wait until the ZBA decision is filed. It's up to you. You could have a consensus vote tonight or something, but I think the ZBA decision has to be in effect, which means it's filed with the village clerk.
Well, the ZBA was adopted. I mean, those conditions exist. The fact that there is a writing that doesn't necessarily fully reflect that, I think everybody understands what those limits are. And any approval that you would make tonight, if you chose to approve the plan, would be subject to what that document said, subject to the review of the transcript.
Joe, what reason would we have not to go forward tonight?
Only that the actual written decision by the ZBA has not been finalized and filed with the village clerk. It was approved.
oh,
And was approved. The approval is in this transcript. One of the things in the vote, which I do on applications like this, is that the vote is agrees. There's a statement that the transcript is controlling, because the transcript reflects the intent of the board. So there's a condition in the transcript that was discussed and agreed to, but it wasn't picked up in the decision, in the edits of the decision, that the transcript is the controlling document. So
And
the decision is
we accept that. And if you chose to approve that tonight, it would be subject to.
Yeah.
council's comment.
Just for clarity, what's before the board? What's before the board is the approval of the merging
and
and the demerge and the merge, not the ZBA
the
decision.
merge and the subdivision. The subdivision creates three non-conforming lots, so it required the ZBA approval.
Right, but those are separate items, right? What we're voting on is the merge, demerge, not the ZBA decision.
that's right.
Right,
Can't those
but
be
it's
both
subject,
separate?
it's been subject to what was approved by the ZBA. That's a condition.
I'm willing to make the decision. I'm willing to take that vote. Somebody makes the motion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. We're approving this to merge, demerge, subject to the ZBA decision.
Right, and you have the site plan in front of you. This is
Yeah,
basically what.
Which doesn't change.
And
That's-
so trustee Gesson asked a question. I just want to clarify that. You're not, though I stated the variances that were applied for and approved by the ZBA. So any other
Right.
relief that's required, like the distance from the street and things like that, requires the approval, would require another variance if it's not
Right.
conforming.
I don't see a reason for us not to vote. Unless you advise us not to vote.
The only thing you do is make a conditional on the filing, you know, the
Yeah,
filing of
yeah.
the ZBA.
Which it will be.
Yeah.
okay. Hold the vote, all in favor?
We need a
Aye.
motion in a
Oh,
second.
we need a motion in a second. Well, Mike, you made the
I'll
motion.
make a motion to, under the conditions we just said,
Yeah.
subject to ZBA approvals. I'll make a motion.
Second. Gary, second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed?
Thank you very much.
I'd like to compliment the zoning board. They worked hard and long, and the applicant, who was cooperative. It's good work, all the guys.
They made us do our homework, we worked hard, but they did too.
Very
We
well.
appreciate the back and forth and.
I think it was a good job.
Appreciate getting to the.
Good job, son.
on this, so thank you.
Joe, you as well.
And, thanks, we're sitting over here, ready to go. Right behind you.
Yeah,
Thank you, thank you. All right. All right.
Right.
okay, what do we have next?
Thank you.
Good luck. We have a public hearing on a proposed law of 2024, which local law number, whatever it will be. Amending in chapter 560 of the table 560B, dimensional regulations. Here's residential zoning on the Village of West Hampton Dunes Code from 2-story to 3-story limit. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so here's a quick copy. Oh, you have some too, could you pass them out?
So just check this out.
I'm trying to make sure it's the right, Joe,
This is the right direction.
right?
I haven't read it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. It's
560.
ways of-
560. 560.
Yeah, can I have one more?
I do have one more.
It looks, yeah, it looks good. Thanks.
Yeah, looks good.
It's like a menu at a restaurant. Yeah, this looks good. Enough.
I have a couple more.
That is in no way allows for a different size or shape building that's already in existence. Is that correct, Joe?
Yes.
Doesn't change the height restrictions?
Yeah, so what this does, it doesn't change the height, the height restriction on the total height of a house and of a building. So whatever the height limit is now of a house, it
It'll be the same.
same.
So there'll be no external difference between homes that are 3 stories under this code than exists now.
No change in, yeah, so there, no change in the height and the,
External dimension.
the external dimension, right? There could possibly be a change in the way the floor space is allocated, within that,
Yes,
within that box, the box is not gonna change, right?
right,
There may be a change in the way that, floors are located, or, laid out within that box.
right.
But the box will not change.
The box. This is the box.
Yes.
Goes up, goes down, stays the same.
So what this is about is we had many years ago, before the superstorm, we adopted our zoning code, and one of the things that the zoning code has is a limit on stories of 2 stories, basically. So over the period of time from the 90s when we adopted our code and until now, due to the superstorm and the perfect storm and everything else, right, Sandy, the state came up with changes in the definition of what a story is, or a floor, but we'll use the word story. So what that did is that a lot of things that were considered to be the lower portion of a house, the ground area, right, was, when we started out, was most often not considered to be a story,
Right.
based on certain criteria. Now, the state considers that a story.
Yeah.
The ground area, subject to a couple things, which is the finished surface of the first floor, the finished surface of the first floor above the ground floor has to be at least 7 feet above the
Great.
the existing average grade. And then I think that's it. I think they simplified it to that. Basically, that's what it is.
So how much did it change?
What it used to be was that as long as you didn't finish the ground, and as long as you used it for parking and storage,
Not how.
not habitable space, then it was not a storage.
So now it's being changed.
Yes, so the state changed it after Sandy. The state changed it because they wanted to count it as a floor, basic or story. And whatever you did, they didn't want to come back. They didn't want to come to every house and decide whether or not you had resistant walls, flood resistant walls, and whether or not your surface had been paved on the inside, things like that. So they just said if the finished floor is above 7 feet or more above the pre-existing average grade, then it's yeah. So you can't pile up dirt around your house and claim it's not a storage. And that's basically, so all communities are dealing with this, including a lot of communities on the Great Lakes and the Finger Lakes,
Yeah.
any large bodies of water.
Yeah.
In the state. This affected a lot of people.
Yeah, but this was really driven, Gary, by the fire code, not really the building code. The building code adapted it from the recommendations of the fire code.
NFP 13.
It's about the firemen carrying their packs up. That's really what it was about.
Okay.
Right. And so this limit the limit is 3 stories, not four stories. The limit is 3 stories. And the definitions in here are more or less. The other thing that we needed to do was to amend some of the definitions that we had in our code, because we like most communities, we still had the prior definitions, including the one for mezzanine. So that's the mezzanine is another thing that has changed.
That has changed?
That has changed. Yeah, yes, in this time period that we're talking about. So what has changed as far as a mezzanine is the state until relatively recently, a mezzanine was not a floor or not a story, as long as the size of the mezzanine did not exceed more than 1/3 of the perimeter of the house on that in that area, right? Where the mezzanine is, right? So if the perimeter of the house, whatever the area within the perimeter of the house. So as long as the area of the mezzanine did not exceed 1/3 of the area within the perimeter of the house at the level of the mezzanine, it did not count as a story or a floor. The mezzanine did not count as a story or a floor. The state got relatively recently, within the last couple of years, the state changed that. And now what it is a mezzanine cannot be more than 1/3 of the area that it opens up into. Okay, so if the mezzanine is above a family room,
Right.
that's 200 square, 200 square feet, it can't be more than 67 feet, whatever, 1/3, 68 feet. Rather than the perimeter, the area that perimeter of the house. So this has changed, and that's affected a lot of people. We are adopting that provision. This law adopts that provision. What I recommend you do on this is open a public hearing and get comments from the public, and then discuss it. I don't know if the definitions are ready. The definitions might still be subject to discussion on the board, but I think you should have open the public hearing and get comments.
You're not talking about tonight.
We'll have the public hearing tonight. We're gonna have a hearing tonight, yeah. But not, what I'm saying is I would keep the public hearing open and continue the public hearing at the end, but let's see what the
I mean,
comments.
after this meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After that.
All right, any questions? From the,
I have one. Lisa is it correct that the height does not change, but the dimensions of the top floor does change? If so, that significantly alters the overall size of the house and the space it takes up, especially in terms of obstructing views, etc.
It's still subject to the pyramid.
The top floor of the house is still subject, the exterior of the top of the floor of the house, excuse me, top floor of the house is still subject to the pyramid law.
Right.
It still has to be within the 60-degree pyramid.
So Kevin again from 512 Ranch. Just a question, are any of the homes currently in violation of the revised code? We know that yet?
Of the revised code? That's, John would have to make that determination. I'm not sure. If there was, if there were, it would be a small number of houses. But, John, that's something that John works on almost
Would they
daily.
be grandfathered or would they simply have to be? You're gonna have a few exercise people coming to you to ask them to make changes.
So
There and changes.
if a house was in violation of the revised code, it would stay in violation, it wouldn't be grandfathered, it would still be in violation, and that would have to be dealt with by John McAlery, the building inspector. So this basically would move us from 2 stories to 3 stories, but that would be the limit to be legalized by this law, or to be included in this law.
Any other questions? We'll leave the hearing open. And
I have 2 questions. One is, are we amending the schedule on the table where it says 2-story, that'll be amended also, even though it's not shown here.
Yeah, no, it is showing, the number,
Yeah, I think that's.
the number 2 goes to number 3, it's 2.1. The height limitation of table 560B
Oh, I missed that.
is hereby amended to read 3 stories.
Okay, very good. Okay.
You don't have to sleep over this.
Yeah, I know. The other thing on paragraph 3, I know there's been some discussion about that level being a habitable story, a non-habitable story. Are we going to call it that way? Because it's not in these documents.
What did you want? I'm sorry, what was the suggestion?
Where on paragraph 3, where it's more than 12 feet. To the
Paragraph 3,
first
okay.
floor, second page, right here,
So it starts with the words,
more than 12 feet. Oh, it's a different paragraph. Oh, it's actually on this.
I have it on page 3.
It's on page 3.
page 3, number 3.
Right. Because this actually is a non-habitable story. And it's not one of the 3 stories.
that's correct.
More than 12 feet rise to the first habitable floor to the finished ground level at any point.
What I'm saying is, do we have to state that it's a non-habitable story?
In order to not count as a.
Well, it doesn't
floor?
count anyhow, but do we have to have it in our code that it's non-habitable?
Story above grade plane, any story having its finished floor surface entirely above grade plane or which the finished surface of the floor next above, more than 6 feet above, oh, so I said 7 feet, so this makes it 6 feet. More than 6 feet above the finished ground level for more than 50% of the total building perimeter, more than 12 foot rise to the first habitable floor. So, this was taken from the code and there's like a word missing in there.
Okay,
I think, yeah, it has to be, this has to
well,
be.
take a look at it before we do the final.
This was copied from the state. Thank you.
Jim Cashin on 953. If I were voting on this, I'd want to, and there's no grandfather, I'd want to know how many of our residents are affected by the acceptance of the law and how many of the houses are going to be made basically illegal. I mean, are they gonna have to take their houses apart if this is adopted and they're not grandfathered?
No, nobody would, there are no houses that would be made illegal. by this. There's a number of houses that would be made legal. Because
Well, I thought you said you weren't sure if there were any houses that would be.
the question was whether there was, I thought the question was if there was a house that was in violation of this law, would it be, if it would be adopted, would it be grandfathered? So
Right.
basically, that would be a four-story house.
And you said no.
No, because if something is a four-story house, before we adopt this, this doesn't legalize it. It only allows 3 stories, not 4 stories.
All right, so then
I mean,
let me change my comment to
Yeah.
a question. If we adopt this new law, are we sure that there aren't any houses that are then gonna be in violation of that law and need to be reconstructed?
There,
If they're in violation of it, then they're in violation of it now.
Right.
It doesn't get any
Right.
more
Doesn't go-
stringent, it
Right.
gets actually more relaxed.
Oh, it gets more relaxed.
Well,
Yeah, it permits,
sure,
Okay,
it's 3 floors.
got it, okay.
But John is doing an overview, and my suspicion is that there won't be any problem.
Will that information be made available prior to the vote on this?
Sorry, what's your name?
My name is Sarah Covelli, 929 Dune.
Thank you.
Will that information be made available to the public? You know, the first line of this document is that this action's being done in the best interest of the residents of this village, but yet we don't know how many people are actually going to be helped by this.
I think if there's a determination in the village, then of course it would be.
Regarding the amount of homes.
Yes?
Okay, so this is not being adopted this evening.
No.
no, that's what we just said.
Yeah.
We have to look at the definitions. The definitions were copied from the state code, and we have to make sure that they match up with it.
So before the next meeting or at the next meeting, that information regarding the amount of homes will be discussed. Right?
We'll be discussing it at the next meeting. I can tell you if the information is gonna be available at the next meeting or the meeting after that or the meeting after that.
Whenever the decision to vote on this. Before that decision is made, that information will be made available to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can tell you that, I can tell you there's a number of homes in the village, not necessarily all the homes and not a small number, but there's a number of homes in the village that, were 100%, which we were legal under the state code before it changed. And, the state code has been changed.
Yes,
So we're trying, that's one of the things that we're trying to address in this local law.
I
But
understand
they
that. I'm
will-
just asking if the number is going to be provided. That's all.
Yeah, to the extent that we.
Yeah, look, it might be a ball, it might be a range of them.
Yeah.
It may not be like exactly, it'll be a range, approximate range of the number, it might be an estimate.
Thank you.
Because otherwise we have to go home by home, but I can tell you it's not, there's a number of houses in the village that I think were built, believing they were 2-story houses. That under the most recent version of the state law might be considered, it might be benefited by this law.
I understand that.
Yeah.
There's also homes that were modified unbeknownst to the village that we may or may not be able to determine whether they're or not.
I'm supposed to hear that houses would be modified in the village without the village being aware of it.
Do you really
People
think that
do-
we have? the
people
right
do
to
things
look
without
at
building
these homes? And,
I'm
Stop.
talking about the addition of a floor.
oh, you're not saying there's a different.
Would be quite obvious.
This is,
Well,
no,
yes,
you're missing it.
Correct. We're talking about things that are done within the confines of the
Yes.
home, maybe an attic
No, I
space, something that
understand.
becomes a third floor.
That
So an
is-
example like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How does this all blend into the OS?
It doesn't really, because this is a zoning law, it's not, the state code still applies. So the state
State
code,
building codes.
yeah, the state building code is not changed by this local law. This is our zoning code as far as we are limiting the number of floors by zoning. They're still counted by state law. So we're trying, the definitions, we're attempting to duplicate the state law. But the number of stories in your home is limited, actually limited by this as a zoning code. So the state law would allow you to do, basically 3 or 4 stories, depending on how you sprinkler it and things like that.
Or 10 stories.
Yeah, but that's a building code, we're doing an zoning. So the DOS is not subverting or sidestepping anything that the DOS wants us to do, that we're working out with them.
Robin Latham, 99. So will this satisfy DOS in that whole inquiry about stories and all that? Will this make them happier with the issues that they have inquired about over the years?
Oh, so one part, good. So the DOS law still applies and you're still comply. We, make sure that we agree that we comply. We think we comply for a big extent. What they should be happy about is we're changing some of our definitions to match their definitions. So that should make them happy if they realize that, yeah.
Some people are never happy.
Yeah.
They can just be a little better.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
They're not,
They're not happy
They're not happy.
by nature. Well, the last meeting was a much happier meeting than ever before. But
So if we're keeping the hearing open.
yeah, we're keeping the hearing
just
open.
vote to keep the hearing open. Motion to vote.
I'm gonna abstain.
Yeah, okay. Motion to keep the hearing open, first, second, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Okay, let's get into the real deal. The mayor's report is the Clover update. We're doing very well. Actually, some nests seem to have already hatched, which means they've been down since early May, late April. We don't have a count on that yet, but Fish and Wildlife is happy. There was one incident on the dune where somebody went ahead and plowed the dune, and we stopped them, but they're going to be violated. They've received violations from the village. The EC was notified, Fish and Wildlife was notified, and the U.S. Army Corps was notified. So that's going to be a long process for that person, but some people just don't like rules or don't understand them. So it was good. String fencing, the installation is in and set. Now it may be modified to a small extent if there's an expansion of a nest or foraging area, but they will come in before 4th of July. Their final assessment and either reduce or expand the string fence that's out there now. It's been our experience in the past, there's been a reduction in general. But all in all, I think the string fence is pretty well set. And I'm hopeful that everybody's able to get to the beach. If you still have a problem, let us know. We'll notify the vendor for Fish and Wildlife, and they'll come down and take an assessment. The election, if anybody didn't know, I know people are being inundated with a lot of emails, and all I can say about the election will be held on June 21st. And please, when you read any of the emails that come out, take them with a grain of salt. There's been a lot of inequities, a lot of misstatements. I believe some of them are just casual mistakes. I believe some may be more nefarious than that, but take it with a grain of salt. It is politics. Tax bills went out. We've got a tremendous response. We've got
Over 440,000.
over 440,000 already. But please remember, your tax bill is due by July 1st, and there's no exceptions. Unfortunately, it'll be assessed if you're 1 minute late on July 2nd. It's a 5%, 5% hit on the first month and 1% a month thereafter. So please get your tax bills in and have it paid up. Movie night will be July 27th. We have not yet gotten the movie. We have some suggestions.
Anybody have suggestions?
Angela was good at that,
I
but
know.
she had young children, so we don't know.
Well, she came up for last year. Why don't
Yeah,
you
I think she might.
ask her if she wants to jump back again?
Make her-
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody has any ideas what to do,
Is it
If
still?
anybody has any ideas,
Is it still skewing their young?
Yeah.
well, we can.
Yeah, we need to have a young.
That's it.
Over 200.
Angela did give me Leo. If anybody knows Leo, that was her recommendation.
That's
I
the
get
truth.
to watch it happen.
Is that a turtle?
It's cute.
So I might go with that, unless there's an objection here.
Let us know. Email us tomorrow or Monday. We'll get on that. Okay. Unfortunately, although I was authorized to go to the NICOM meeting, and it's very important that I do attend those, I couldn't go because of a sickness in our family. Claire's dad is not well. But we did get a report, and they certainly kept me abreast of everything that's going on. One of the things that we handled at the beginning is the new state codes and how many villages are dealing with it. But basically, it was a well-attended meeting, and I'll get a full update within the month. You know, I really hate to miss that meeting because a very lot of our work gets done there. A lot of the insight as to what's coming down the pike is there, but it'll be next year. Upcoming renourishment. That's a particular situation. The upcoming renourishment is no longer under the stipulation. The upcoming renourishment is under FIP. Now, some people have reported that FIP is going to fix everything in the road, in the island, on the bay, on the ocean. That's categorically wrong. And unfortunately, those kind of comments are very detrimental to us. FIP is the Federal Firearm to Montauk Point reformulation study. And unfortunately, any federal tax funds, state tax funds, or even local tax funds cannot be expended on private property. So there will be no beach renourishment on the Bayside. Of course, if there's a
Underfit.
underfit, none. Only Bayside renourishment will be done either by a private party or by what would be considered an improvement district. So, as I say, when you get these emails, you need to disregard or at least ask the village what the story is. Keep it straight. But it just goes, I mean, inexperience in these issues is what draws these bad conclusions. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call.
Gary, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Which is, the stipulation runs out in 2028. Why is the replenishment not covered?
Because stipulation.
And then it has to be done on the fifth.
Because the stipulations claim, and we were part of that, that if they were to come and include us in it, that would terminate the last renourishment, which would be the next renourishment. So in order to ensure the fact that we're guaranteed renourishment for the next 30 years, we took that part.
I see.
However, there's some flexibility here. We have a very good relationship. Even with the Corps, we make a very good renourishment.
I see.
Yeah, and I don't think it's gonna cost us money, but in the near future, it's gonna start to cost. We'll be,
So basically, you had to put this on the film just to ensure that we were going to
yeah, we're gonna continue for another years, because our project is an ongoing project,
Right.
and may not have been included in
I
this,
see.
detail. So it's very important that we guarantee the next 30 years.
Gotcha.
So the small cost of this, it was worth.
So there's still a scheduled replenishment for this fall, right?
Yes, that's correct. As a matter of fact, there was a question in the last meeting that we didn't like the way the maps came out. And there was a question as to if it needed to be remapped. We called the Army Corps, and within several days, the Army Corps' equipment was down here. They were remapping it, and it's been remedied. But that's because of the relationship that we've had with the Army Corps for 30 years. It's not, it's not something that develops overnight. It's something that develops over 30 years. Let's see. Possible annotation of the unincorporated area of Dune Road.
So we're moving ahead with the petition
Yep.
under section 703 of the general municipal law. And one of the things that we probably will be having people call the village soon because their signatures will be solicited. One of the things that we need to do in parallel is an environmental review, not an environmental impact statement, but environmental review, which would be a fully, what's called a full EAF. It's like a 13-page forms that need to be filled out. So I'm working on that in the meantime. But I have all the legal part of it's done, and that's basically
good.
it. So,
Well, that was another law that changed. Unfortunately, 2 years prior, we were about to do it. Governor Cuomo changed the law, made it impossible to be done. Luckily, through the lobbying of Nikon, we got it back to the old way. Now it's opened up. We're able to give the attempt, and I think we'll be successful. Many of the people in that area are very willing to go
They're doing
forward.
backflips.
Yeah, they're doing backflips. Also, we've had a conversation with Brian Tiemann, one of the trustees from West Hampton Beach, and they're interested in joining us. So we would go 50 houses east, east, and he would come the remainder west. So it closed the gap on Southampton altogether. I think it makes it more palatable for the families in that area, and it certainly makes it better for us.
could you have a vote that goes on the record tonight? So
Sure.
I know, because I don't want to, have people start signing a petition that's different from what you want.
Well,
What would the house be that we go up to?
I don't know the number of
Where?
but
Up to West Hampton House.
Up to the
Yeah,
west?
I think it's 580.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that.
And the parking lot's across the street. So it would be-
Is that from our village line to
it
there?
was east. That's correct.
So it's actually in West Hampton itself.
It's actually West
Town south-
Hampton.
Around the
It's not
south,
a Southampton.
not West Hampton,
No, West Hampton Beach.
Not Southampton,
Right.
not West Hampton.
not Sweat His.
It's called
Just about John Scott's, the sign there.
John Scott's to
our village.
our
Our
village.
village. So from there to the end of the condos will be in West Hampton Beach, and from the condos
To us.
us.
We'll be just
will be
single
ours.
family homes.
Just the road.
No, the
Oh, the
home.
houses.
The houses also?
Yes.
But we're not picking up any condos, correct? It's
No,
strictly-
No condos. We're not
Just
taking-
in the,
Strictly single family residence.
right up to West
That's
Hampton
correct.
House and then west. And West Hampton Beach, yeah.
How many houses is that?
What's the advantage of having?
It's a good question. It's, I haven't done a count, but it's
It
like
adds to our tax base.
4, the first number is 4.
It costs us nothing.
But we get incremental tax revenue and no real cost to the village. Our guys are already patrolling that area with a joint.
We
agreement.
patrol, we have municipal
West Hampton Beach is
agreement.
do it.
But don't those people have to agree to it also?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
The process,
Agreement?
well, we'll
have
see.
to be-
It's a referendum.
Oh, it's a referendum.
Oh, yeah.
Theirs.
We
We
should see.
Oh, that we would agree, they would
No,
have.
they would have to agree
They have to petition us.
to petition it.
We tried this once, right?
No,
No, we never got that far.
No.
No,
Cuomo changed the law.
the law changed and we couldn't do it.
It's a long road.
It's been a lot of years.
There's
There are
been a-
certain things that are advantages to be in West Hampton rather than West Hampton Dunes.
Like what?
They're not,
Like,
West-
They're not in West.
Like you can't put a boat at their marina because you're not part of West Hampton.
they're not.
No, wait. First of all, it's West Hampton Beach you're talking about. That is the area.
That's
What
not
that is
Southampton.
the town of
They
Southampton.
have down in Southampton.
Yes,
That's
that-
right.
So we need their buy-in too, and we think the stores are aligned with folks at Southampton administration currently.
Yes,
the
we have
people
a
at West
very,
Hampton Beach currently, and this board, everyone's aligned. And the first.
yeah, we have a very good relationship with Southampton Town because Mayor Moore is now the supervisor and we're very good friends. So I don't foresee a big problem.
Okay.
All right, yes,
Have we though done a cost benefit analysis of this in terms of, what revenue would be brought into the village?
Yes.
Costs that would be for the people who are currently in that unincorporated part of Southampton. And then the further thing that came to people's attention is, we have about, I think, as per my Craig said the last meeting, about $1 million in beach replenishment money. If we have to now replenish the beach for another, I don't know, a few hundred feet, 30, 40 homes, and they haven't put into this fund, how will that possibly affect our budget going forward?
They have
Well, we have
jetties.
to do a revenue share.
They have jetties. They're jetty protected.
the amount of sand that goes in that area is much less. But we, yeah, we,
Those
But which still
homes,
could be a cost that we need to know.
so those homes would also contribute to our fund. And because we're all still Southampton town, and there's a share of revenue from the village, the town, county, the state, Southampton would still be on the hook regardless. And those extra homes that we're taking would now be paying into our fund. And if we get our CPF,
right,
that's gonna, our fund will additionally benefit from those sales of those 40 some of the homes will now come into our fund.
When you say our CPF, you're talking about charging a
Transfer tax.
transfer tax, which that's
Yeah.
not been, this has been discussed, right?
Yeah, we're working on it. Joe's got an update. We're moving forward with
but also remember,
Senator
this
Palumbo,
renourishment's already in the books.
Assemblyman.
The next renourishment will be in 4 to 5 years. By that time, their contributing could be significant and cover their own.
So from a strategic standpoint, do you think this could even be done in less than 2 to 3 years?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
So the answer to your other question, the first question was, we did an analysis a while ago, and so conceptual analysis. Based on the tax rates, but the relative tax rates haven't changed. The tax rates have increased, but they haven't changed relative to each other. There's a significant service benefit to the people in that area that they'll pick up services or improve services over what they have now.
I mean, like constabulary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
since the constabulary, and
And zoning.
which on a lot of calls will respond anyway to that.
We do.
To help out mutually. There will be a financial benefit to the overall area. By bringing them in. So that's it, so it'll be that dual benefit.
And any idea what the cost would be to them? Like how much will their taxes, yes, they'll Southampton taxes will go up, but will their overall taxes change significantly? I agree that the value for them, I think there's a great value for them, because I think there's a value of living in West Hampton Dunes, but did you figure out the economic impact of that?
Yes,
We have a rough idea.
so their Southampton taxes decrease. And the same thing that happened when we formed our bills, the Southampton taxes decrease significantly. And are replaced by the service, by the village of West Hampton Dune taxes. For the services that they'll get from the village rather than the town.
So what do you estimate that'll cost per average homeowner?
It's different on every home.
So basically, the idea is the goal is to make it more or less level.
Right.
And accept that services that they're paying for now that are provided by Southampton, some services will be provided by West Hampton Dunes and paid to West Hampton Dunes in their village taxes.
Are they also in the West Hampton Beach Fire District, that area?
Of course.
Yes,
Yes.
and they will stay that way.
Okay, that's it. Enough.
Will the cost of the constabulary go up?
No,
Shouldn't,
our guys they're doing that right.
Would the cost that we pay to the West Hampton Fire Department go up because of adding those homes? I would imagine it would.
no, they're not, because we will still, a portion of the village will be under contract and a portion not under contract. And the charge that the district has been charging the village on a per house basis is not higher than it would be if we were in the district. So on your house, if you're paying, if the pro rata amount for fire protection of our overall contract for your house is $500. And that means that if you were within the district and paying the district tax rather than paying through West Hampton Dunes, the charge would not be more than $500. They have kept their contract, so there's no penalty.
that's right.
So those homeowners that we would be annexing are paying approximately the same
Right,
thing,
yes,
just individually,
Yeah.
as opposed to we pay it as
Through a
our
contract,
bill.
right, yeah.
And remember, we get the benefit of the tax that they pay to us. It's a definite plus, there's no economic loss. Downside.
Same thing for the road sweep and for the
Yeah,
snow
Ambulance
plow.
stays the same.
yeah, it all stays the same. It's a very good deal.
Before you move on, Eileen has a couple.
Okay.
Can someone
Who
clearly,
is that? Who is that?
Eileen,
What,
this is Eileen's iPhone.
well, she has to identify herself.
Eileen, can you identify yourself?
Last name.
Yes.
Yes, Eileen Sapricone, 907 Dune Road.
Eileen.
Hi, how is everybody? I have a
Good.
lot of. Do you want me to
Mike.
read my questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Can someone clearly explain why this would be a benefit to the residents? Who does this benefit? How many full-time residents are in the other area? Again, who does this benefit, and specifically, why would we want to do this?
Well, Eileen would be expanding our tax base. So immediately we'd be receiving taxes from 50 more homes with a very little impact on our costs because we already do many of the services through an intermunicipal agreement to that area. So first, there's a financial benefit to us. Secondly, we love to welcome more people into our community. And thirdly, it adds to the general assessed value of the entire village, which if ever we needed to bond, has an impact, a positive impact.
But if this was such a good idea to do, why hasn't it been done for 30 years?
Well, we're a little busy.
It's not that easy.
A little busy in the early part of the 30 years. But when we finally got clear of getting the village established, what happened was the governor then changed the ability for villages to annex property nearby because the Cuomo family is not very enamored of smaller governments having authority. So for a period of time, it was a dead deal. You just couldn't do it. And it's been recently rescinded through the action of NICOM. We've got them to rescind it, and now we're taking advantage of it.
All right, but someone's gonna, like, the board's gonna write down, like, in clear language why this would be a benefit, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll give you a financial benefit, but if you'd like to call me on Monday, I'm in the office and we can talk a little more about some of the.
So this is Joseph Prokop. So a portion of the village expenses every year are fixed. And a portion of the village expenses every year are variable. If we increase our tax base, the fixed expenses are spread across a larger tax base, and that benefits the village. What has happened, we have discussed this in earnest a couple times in the past over the years. What's happened is that the Southampton, as everybody knows by looking at your tax bill, the Southampton tax assessments have been in flux for many years, particularly the village relative to areas outside the village. I don't want to have a potential impact on the residents of the village, so I'm not going to say what the positive aspect of that has been, but it's been a moving target for on and off when we looked at this in the past. And I feel confident that we could move ahead at this time.
Yeah. But you can call me on Monday. We can talk a little more about that.
Tuesday.
Well, you Tuesday.
Tuesday. I'm sorry. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Currently, there are how many homes or how many lots in West Hampton Dunes?
About just a little over 300.
300. And how many would
Plus
be annexing?
about 50.
50.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, summer construction. We've had a lot of requests to do something about summer construction. We've talked to some members of the board. We're coming up with some good ideas. Right now, there's no more work on Saturdays as well as Sunday from here through Labor Day. So tomorrow you can't work on the outside, no heavy construction. And then we're thinking of shortening the hours of the day that you can work, because as a resort community, people just don't want to be disturbed. And I think the concept we came up with as a preliminary thought was, instead of allowing to begin at 8 o'clock, start at 9 o'clock. And be a little more strict about outside noise, up to the constable's discretion, and a complaint from a next door neighbor. And if it's extraordinary noise, it would go under a noise complaint. But we had another idea. Harvey actually had a good idea. In certain other areas, they don't allow any construction during the summer on permits that are issued.
No variances,
Variances.
variances that are issued, yeah.
Yeah, any variance issued after May.
Hampton Beach, yeah.
Yeah, with Hampton Beach, there's no construction. So that would be another
No exterior. construction.
exterior, no construction. West Hampton.
Exterior, no, you can,
Exterior.
Oh, you could do interior.
interior, but not
Right.
exterior.
So those are the things that we're talking about. I'd like anybody who have comments to call me in the office or present them by email. We'll go over them, and before next month, we should have something, close to draft form. We really want to keep the quality of life where it is and better. So I think this is a step in the right direction, and we're moving forward. Anybody has any comments now, we'll take them, but we should be.
So you said that construction can't start till 8 AM currently,
Now it can't start. Yes,
Starting Monday,
that's
starting
correct.
Tuesday.
Starting Tuesday.
so before Memorial Day weekend, what time are they allowed to start construction?
8.
Oh, you just said it can't start before.
No,
Oh,
seven.
seven.
Yeah, but it can't start over the weekend.
What?
They can't start now over the weekend.
We changed that, right?
Yeah, so there's not gonna be any construction over the weekend.
No, no.
Exterior
I
construction.
just didn't know whether it was allowed to start before 8 AM or after 8 AM. But you just answered it.
For me, it is
By
now.
the time of the
That's
year.
correct. That's right. Seasonal.
Are you talking about bumping it later if you're not letting them start till 9, or you're shortening?
I don't think we're inclined to do that. No. It's still a long day and you should be able to get your work done. Joe, you want to talk a little bit about the meeting? Harvey, myself, and Joe. Pardon?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to the video meeting. I think we'll let Gary handle it. But Harvey, myself, and Joe, and Dave, our other attorney, traveled to Albany, spent a 10-hour day, and I think it was a very productive meeting. Joe, you want to discuss a little bit of it?
Yeah, so we had, we went to Albany, and met with about 8 people from the New York State Department of State, a combination of their attorney, the legal staff, a couple of people from the Secretary of State's office, and I guess the number 2 person
The Deputy Secretary of State,
in the state,
my
yeah,
good friend.
who was a good friend of Mayor Jersey Nokas apparently. And then a few technical people.
Right.
One of the glitches was that we had set this up so that the other members of the board could participate by a video connection. But when we got there, which we were all set for, but when we got there, the Department of State had a unique interpretation of the open meetings law. And we didn't want to start the
I
meeting.
told you
with a
that was
fight,
gonna happen.
and basically they pushed the button and turned the
Right.
connection off. So we didn't have a lot to say about it, unfortunately, but the other trustees were available for the meeting. So what happened was we just talked globally about continuing to work to resolve the questions that they had. We a few months before the meeting, we had provided the state with a detailed survey of every propane tank in the village. And how it each one meets the criteria of the state requirements, state code requirements. There are about 2 or 3 dozen small propane tanks in the village, which have minor code omissions, or
Easily
which are
removable.
things like they need to be anchored with one more strap, things like that. They're 9.5 feet from a window instead of 10 feet from a window. We have 800 pictures that we sent to them on a what's that, Dropbox? What's that called? Yeah, Dropbox. And so they were immensely pleased with that. That we had made that progress. We also spoke with them with an open mind about this whole issue about this whether a house is 3 stories or 4 stories or 2 stories. And we largely are not, we told them we're not, gonna have thermonuclear warfare with you over whether a house is 3 stories or 4 stories. But we want you to have an open mind as we work our way through this. They seem to be okay with that. We have had 3 video meetings with them since that time. Myself and Mr. Yaffe have had 3 video meetings with them since that time, that we continue to have a discussion about. I have to get something, I want to get something on the record because it's important, and then even more than I usually do, I'm gonna bore the hell out of everybody.
Come on.
But I wanted to say this. This whole thing started with, they're supporting their entire version of this by a DHCR paragraph in a DHCR book from 1980.
Recommendation.
Recommendation in 1988. And people know what the DHCR is?
No,
Or no? It's a New York City agency. Yeah.
it's a New York City agency.
It's a New York City agency. So they said in this New York City agency in 1988 adopted a definition of a story, and we should have used that definition of a story. That paragraph is only printed in one book, one actual book.
Right.
And that actual book they claim is we haven't confirmed this, but they claim it's in a library in Central Islip.
And
because my office was also in Central Islip, I should have known that it was there. And advised the village about this obscure thing.
Buried under your office.
Yeah, right.
However, what came out of this is they said that the reason why this New York City agency paragraph is related to the village of West Hampton Dunes in eastern Suffolk County is because sections, I think it's 276 of the executive law says that every interpretation is the same as a regulation when it is published on the website, right? So I was sitting there and I was thinking, then I smiled and I said, well, wait a second, this was 1988. I don't think it was published in the website in 1988. And there was silence. And they said, well, it doesn't matter, basically, that's what we intended. And so we backed off, and then we're not going to fight on that. We're backed off from it, but we continue to work our way through it. And I think, John, right now, what's going on is the 61 houses that they basically did a drive-by and said, this looks like 3 stories or whatever it is, this house. John McAleer is doing a detailed report
Assessment
on the interior of those houses. So we can, the same way we provided a detailed report on the gas tanks, we're going to do this on the homes. And
yeah, I think it was a great meeting because it was not hostile. It was much more productive. They were looking to make a resolution of it. And I think the fact that Mark Patterson was the now Deputy Secretary of State, was a fellow mayor with me at NICOM, helped a lot. And it opened up the channels, and Joe and Dave did a very good job representing or turning back their misrepresentation of their own regulation. So I think we're moving forward. And I think it's going to be ultimately resolved with far less impact than it could have been. That's about that.
Are there any questions? Does anybody have any?
All right. You want to talk about the vid? It's on the board. You guys
I
want
just
to
wanted to report that VHB has been to the property.
PHP of your engineering?
Yes, and they said within the next 10 days, they're gonna have a preliminary plan to be presented to the members of the team. So
Good.
hopefully,
Yeah.
probably by the next month's meeting.
Good.
Carlos is still for John?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, can you back up? Just what was it again? Give me that quick
In
update.
the next 10 days, VHB will have a preliminary plan to present to the members of the bid. And then, once we agree to it, then we'll bring it to the board.
You guys have a timeline, we'll need to raise money. Are you getting close or will give you an idea?
So we got approvals, you can't.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Well,
So
that's.
timeline wise, have they given you?
We have no idea.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Once we have this,
We'll know in the next meeting.
But I'm sure it'll be faster than our predecessor.
Okay. It takes time to, put the bonds together, so that's all I just. Minimum 60 days. That's probably more like 90.
Yeah.
You gotta bid it,
We're
you
bid.
gotta notice it, you gotta get bond council working on it, you
Yeah.
gotta get Munistat working on it, and then you gotta do the auction, and then you gotta wait 30 days for money, so it's 90 is.
Okay, I think we're okay.
Yeah. And maybe the Fed's gonna give you a gift.
Did someone approve?
Okay, trustee report, repair of the public walkovers. We had a conversation, Mike, if you haven't looked at it.
Yeah, so listen, these walkways are owned by the county, we don't control it, but what we can do is just advocate to have them repaired. I think some of them should probably be more than just repaired, but walkway 7 is probably the worst. They made some initial repairs after I brought their attention to walkway 7 after the January storms. They came out, they fixed them. We took another look, there's further damage, so I spoke with Suffolk County Parks Commissioner Jason Smagan and his two, the guys who run the crews. There's a roving carpentry crew that comes, Tony Trotta and Ray Somerville, and they're getting on it. I begged them to try and get it done before this weekend. I don't know if that's happened, Brian.
It looks pretty good today. They did a lot of boards.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So we highlighted basically, stairs, most importantly, handrails that were splitting, and then of course, boards that were checked or broken or whatever. So it's exactly. And no, they've been tremendous. I mean, when I emailed Jason Snakeman in January, in the middle of a storm, he sent someone out there in 3 days and then reported back to Brian, it was done. And then we were notified Tuesday, spoke to Jason again, and he had a crew there. It's looking pretty good. So, and they're gonna go and do all of them. I don't think they're gonna get to all of them by tomorrow, but we're on it.
Let's give it something.
Yeah.
I have a question. Behind, there's a jet boat dock that's washed ashore in the fall. I've called the Bay Constable 5 times, the Southampton Bay Constable, about getting it removed. And they called me back and they said they'll do it, but it's still sitting there between 676 and 678 there.
Right?
I'll speak to Alice.
You can speak to the Bay Constable, please.
Yeah.
And there's no identifying.
It's like a double
There's no,
jet ski.
you can't know who's in this, right?
It
Who
blew
comes
in.
from anywhere.
It blew in and it's got no markings on it or anything.
No numbers.
You're a lot nicer than most. Now, past a lot of people kind of pushed it back out.
No, it's on.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, we had that high storm. With the tide, yeah.
Yeah, January.
Right, well, I'm-
Change the bay access, the one that's across from the water and that bay access, because that's in really bad shape.
it is,
Authority,
Right, one
you're
second.
talking about, but
Yeah.
the one across from those, yeah, that one.
that's also owned by the water.
It's
Um,
676.
Pardon?
It's just a rollover, really.
Well, no, it's kind of broken up and they.
Yeah, to avoid this, right, in bad condition, I don't want someone to get hurt from coming after the village.
It's actually,
Possibility.
it's not us, it's the, that's water authority.
So,
So who built that?
The residents built it years ago,
Oh, okay,
and then it's just used and
yeah, it's lovely, it's
Yeah.
just, and I'm afraid someone's gonna get
it's
hurt.
not the village, and the village has never maintained it.
Unfortunately,
No, and I can't, and from a legal perspective, you shouldn't,
That's
because
right.
then that puts
we
you on.
put a
the-
hammer on
Right.
it, we're,
Yeah.
All in that area, the past have put their resources together and done it over a few times.
And I know we had talked about at one point getting a rack for the kayaks or something like that. Whatever happened with that? Because I remember there was a complaint, the homeowner complained. that
there's
somebody-
a lot of controversy. We're looking into it, I mean.
we didn't have the proper, we didn't have the right to put it on some kind of water
Yes.
property.
Right, we never couldn't be on,
I think we talked about putting it actually here.
yeah,
because there were a number of kayaks that had been picked up and abandoned.
There's kayaks, there's boats,
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that doesn't look like it's been used in a while.
You know, if it's on your property, call us, we'll see what we can do.
I'm just
I'm-
curious,
yeah,
but
that's-
it's on the water property, so it's not our place to really touch it either.
No,
Got it.
okay, treasurer, you're on.
What about East End Road?
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So, Jim, you know this, we were made aware of Congressman Lalota had a fund that came up and we had 5 days to respond, but even they were apologetic. There was basically state STEM money that became available for a variety of type of projects in villages where you had to apply. And it was a, very lengthy process. Part of it was it needed to be shovel ready, which we were not shovel ready. We didn't even have plans. But his staff was very good about taking our application anyway, your letters along with the other letters. And some rough engineering plans that we had
Aaron House, yeah.
way back when, and
Yeah.
then we put a rough number on what we thought we would need and a timeline to put it together. So they compiled all that in the middle of them trying to launch their shovel ready projects. And so, Congressman Lalota's office has it. Mary and Lauren are working on it.
What's it for?
So this section from Widgeon to the park is lower than the rest of the village.
Yeah,
And Jim can probably articulate it better, that when we get storms, high tide,
Yeah, it's
rain, like
Yeah.
real flood,
Yeah.
like fish swimming.
I have
Why is that called the east end then? It's west.
The West End, it's supposed to be West End.
It says east.
Yeah,
I'm thinking back to vocabulary.
yeah, Jim,
You want to see if anybody reads it, you want to see if anybody reads the agenda.
Jim, I had a good conversation with Ed Romaine. We're very friendly, and he called me, said, look, what you need, I'll get to you, but I'd like to see what Loda has to offer.
Mhm.
So we're gonna see if we get a coordinated effort. I don't think it'll be done this summer, it'll probably be done right after the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have a lot of,
Village of.
It would be using federal and state money.
And states.
No,
and county,
Well, that's the only way it's gonna happen.
yeah.
yeah, and county funds.
Who's the engineer that had these plans done?
We did, Lero.
Oh,
They weren't complete.
no, the engineer, I don't know.
Lero.
Yeah, I think this was at the time that we actually, no,
Lero.
Lero.
Lero,
Coming out, yeah.
yes.
When we did the widening of our road in 2010 roughly, Kat, that's when we evaluated it. And they said, look, we'll just put a skim on this, but you gotta raise it.
Yeah.
And at the time, I wanna say they kind of thought maybe $100 bucks, 600,
600,
which was the cost of doing the whole road.
right, the original.
Now it's probably
Yeah.
more. But
Yes, sir.
At the last village meeting, I brought up this issue, we discussed it, and I specifically mentioned that there's more funding out there than ever before from the state and federal government for flood mitigation. I spoke to you about the Environmental Bond Act that was passed, and I requested as a resident that you follow up and pursue that. Has
Yeah,
anything been pursued?
Environmental Bond Act dealt
About that?
mostly with Sweetwater, freshwater issues.
That's not true.
So, you're so good. Why don't you give us a hand? I'd love to take your advice. Come on down.
We're the village administration. I think you should.
Thank you for your comments.
No, I'm asking as a resident for you to please follow up and look into the $482 million that are available for flooding mitigation project
Yes.
to help our residents.
I
And
said
I'd like
to-
for you to not shut me down when I ask that question,
Well, I answered your question. I said most of it was dealt with freshwater.
but
you
that's
said-
not true.
You said no, and I disagree. But if you'd like to come in and
It's not whether you agree or disagree,
that's who's right.
no, it's about the information. It's about whether these projects are being funded. These projects were already funded in, the Shinnecock Bay. There was a flooding mitigation project there. There was one in the town of Oyster Bay. There's so many different areas that are getting this funding, and I want our residents to have this problem fixed.
Thank
That's all.
Thank you.
Well, Mike, that's we want to look into it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
As far as this annexation of the 50 homes.
Yes.
When that happens, is there a possibility of widening the road going to those 50 homes? Like we have our wide
I don't,
Street,
It depends on
it
what,
depends on how, depends on what their easement is, what their roadway
the
is,
right of way is.
what their right of way is.
You'll get a lot of opposition when you try to.
Well, our right of way was wide enough to do it.
It's not gonna be part of the annexation.
Yeah. We'll take it first. It's a good idea. It was so dangerous.
If it's possible, you know, we do it, but it all depends on what the right of way is. Our right of way was designed for that.
And I just have one other question, I'm ready to leave, okay? Fiber optic, okay, the last meeting that that you had in Smithtown. The lady from Cablevision said, oh, we have fiber optic on our road, okay, and I called immediately after.
And what you said,
She said, oh, it's gonna be any day now. So I had friends that live in town, that said, oh, did you get the fiber optic yet? And I laughed at them and I said, no, because. Thank you, Cablevision.
That's it.
Is there any way to push Cablevision so we have it here?
So the contract that we have, which is in place now, requires them to provide fiber optics. They claim that they're meeting that obligation by providing fiber optic compatible. It's not fiber optic, it's not fiber optic.
it's near fiber.
And
But
we're
that's
just,
ridiculous.
so the
So why
contract,
did you renew the contract with them?
we didn't renew.
We haven't
What I was
renewed
about to say
Oh,
is that's why we haven't renewed the contract.
we're sorry.
That's exactly why we haven't
We're
done.
at a block, roadblock for that.
And there's nobody else that wants to come in.
And they don't,
Verizon wouldn't want to come through.
No,
the worst part of it is they don't even know where, you can't even discuss it with them. Because they don't even know where the fiber optic is or isn't.
But they spent all last summer
Yeah, it's
digging
all
up, doing road and putting in fiber optic.
Every home is different and your home is probably on the newer side, so your
Yeah,
electric is.
we're on the part where everything's buried in the ground.
Right.
This summer, they were digging everything up
Right.
again,
So
put more cables in.
you probably are a candidate to call them and have them pull the fiber from the road through your conduit and as they pull out the old coaxial. So I would ask them,
I did that after learning about meeting when you asked the lady from
Yeah.
Cablevision. I called
She
the
was-
very next day.
yeah,
I said, oh, you have it in 2 weeks.
I had the same thing happen. Then that was fine.
Cause I need high-speed internet when I'm working
yeah,
from home.
not ideal, but you can't even do it above ground because you don't have poles.
No.
Like I have a pole in front of my house, so I have it in the air. So if you've got poles in front of your home, people on the Zoom, you can actually have fiber optic
come in.
through the air from the pole to your home. That's the easiest thing. We'll do that in a day.
At the west end.
How far does that go?
Correct, at the east and west ends, but if you're in the area that there's no poles, you've got to individually, they've got to figure it out. You either have conduits that they can use, or you don't. I imagine they do, but if
Can
we
we go
don't,
away to the Public Service Commission?
Sure,
Yes,
Yeah.
please do.
yeah. Complain that they won't hurt.
Oh, can the village come?
No.
We are at the stage now where there's a serious issue. Because we're refusing to renew the contract. We had a meeting with them a year ago and they didn't even know that people, they have no idea. The people we're talking to have no idea what's going on in the village. And have failed to get educate themselves, and it's a real problem dealing with this.
So can the village file
the other thing is,
They're just sitting on it.
I've heard Verizon and AT&T are starting to implement high-speed access in the, Wi-Fi.
Yeah, what they want you to do is get like a direct TV thing,
Right,
and I've had direct TV with high.
No, it's not direct TV.
It's awful.
Verizon doesn't have anything to do with direct TV. That's
Yeah,
separate.
What they said was, if you switch over to Verizon,
Yeah,
we'll get you a direct TV dish. Or
It's a dish. It's
That's a
you
dish.
get a dish.
yeah.
And you can't get high-speed internet off a dish. Okay, you can't do it to a home or anything like, it's not high speed.
Maybe with the advent of 5G, maybe there is that, it's not.
I've had HughesNet, I've had several in another home that I have, and it's impossible. The best is high-speed internet. Is
Yeah, definitely.
fiber optic.
tomorrow. I mean, we've been dealing with this,
But it may be better.
but
than-
we're not signing a contract.
Because I'm sure I'm not the only one that has problems
Of
with the
course,
internet.
everybody does.
So
But we're not, We're not signing the contract.
Yeah, we'll let them know that this came,
Yeah, the signal stinks.
I'll let them know that this came up again and that
Yeah.
needs to be
I
resolved.
mean, maybe they need an engineer on the call, like we had 2 lawyers, we had a salesperson and a lawyer. Maybe we need an engineer that's familiar with.
Yeah.
Our situation and have him commit or not commit, have him come down, look at the village and say, yeah, I can do this.
Okay.
Or I can't.
Because they tore everything up, even beyond your house, before the poles.
Yeah, no, I remember, yeah, the orange,
All summer.
orange cone sticking out, yeah, it's there, it's in the roof.
But I just want to say, like, I will say, I know nothing about this. I don't even know what fiber optics looks like. But I can tell you the fact that they were digging doesn't mean that there's fiber optic, because they claim that they've upgraded the service to fiber optic compatible. I think the fiber optic ends, somewhere east of you.
But they were pulling wire.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm on it,
but you're on the west end,
Yeah.
the east end of the village with
but
the poles.
it looks the same.
Came down as
From what they did by me and what they did by you.
That's you, right,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
The
the.
compatibility thing, I think, just, they put something in.
On Tuesday.
I think they're basically, it's their version of compatibility is coaxial to
Yeah.
fiber in the street, and they call that compatibility. It's not.
Right, right.
It has to be all the way in,
Right, exactly.
right to the box.
All right,
Can we should close the loop on the road?
Yeah.
Can I suggest that, putting everything aside, that maybe you should talk to this young lady and see if there's indeed some grant money?
Yeah, of course, yeah, I mean, this is.
I've been willing to do that from the
program
beginning.
That I applied to is a program that I think Sarah's been speaking about. I don't know if it's part of the 48, but it was a program that was federal dollars through Congressman
Oh,
Maloney.
maybe money, oh, that's the same.
Yeah.
one? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, treasurer's report.
Okay, recently I've received an email that we should have an accountant in the village. I've been the treasurer, and I was a business owner for over 20 years when I became with one of the largest WPs in New York City. I was volunteered by Herb Hoffman as the first village official and the clerk treasurer in '93 out of my home. I quickly learned the huge difference between municipal government policies and procedures that were very different from business. You can't do anything you want, anytime you want. Our village runs seamlessly. I'm not sure residents understand how much time, effort, and love are put into this village that made it work beautifully over the past 30 years. There are strict regulations about how to prepare bills, procedures for payment. You can only pay once a month. How bills are filed, they have to be in certain systems, very different from business filings. Also, to keep the finances very separate as being a treasurer and Gary being the mayor, village administrator, police commissioner, he is not a signature and does not sign any checks. Checks require 2 signatures by trustees, a clerk, or myself. Even though we are a small village office, we do have a separation of duties. All bills, checks, reports, deposits, etc., are viewed by 2 or more people. We comply with all policies, whether it's procurement, ethics, etc. NICOM has been a great source to enhance our proper duties, responsibilities, and ethics of everything that's done in this village. My background was in accounting, but we do have an accountant who oversees everything, making sure certainly that we comply with all necessary deadlines and as all other villages. We also hire an outside accounting firm to audit us annually. We have been audited by the controller's office with shining results. Although they audit us in our small village for over 18 months. The trustees, accountant, village attorney, and clerk all get bank statements, reconciliations, which are reconciled to the penny every month, and reports every single month. There are many procedures implemented to secure proper policies in our village. I just had to make that statement. They want to have transparency, so I wanted to report that.
Thank you.
What about the treasurer's report?
Okay, I emailed the bank statements and reconciliations as I do every month. Our workman's compensation renewal for 24-25 is less than last year. Only by $500, but I think that's good. This is an extremely busy time of the year. We were receiving tax payments. We received over $450,000. We're finalizing the fiscal year, and we'll meet with the accountant to finalize the audit, prepare the AUD, annual update document, and file it with the state. Everything else is on track. We happen to be in great shape. If anyone has any questions, please call me anytime.
All right, that initial statement was due.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
You know, I didn't think this was gonna be political today.
It's not.
And
I'm not running anywhere. I'm not running
Gary-
anywhere.
Gary made a comment earlier about statements that were made possibly by me, possibly by Gary.
I
Simone,
didn't
not
say that.
accurate, and
I'm
I don't think
sorry.
that was fair. However, since you were talking about transparency, in 2013, the Village of West Hampton Dunes passed an ethics law and an ethics code.
That's
You're
good.
supposed to have a board of ethics. There is no board of ethics. Also, every official in the Village of West Hampton Dunes is supposed to file an annual financial disclosure. There are no financial disclosures that exist for any of the trustees or any of the people who work in the village. That would be under your purview, Claire. Now, also, as a result of that, if somebody in the village owns a piece of property or is going before the zoning board or is going before the building inspector, and the building inspector does not know that that person who's a trustee or possibly a resident or possibly somebody who has an official, it's not disclosed because the Board of Ethics didn't review on it because the Board of Ethics doesn't exist, even though, again, it's in the village code and it's a violation of not having it. Or there could be possibly some undue influence for somebody who is an employee of the village to do something. That's why there's supposed to be an independent ethics board. So can you explain to me why, since 2013, which is 11 years, that you passed a law, wasn't forced upon you, you passed the law to have an ethics code, a board of ethics, and also financial disclosure annually filed by every trustee within 30 days of election or by April 30th of every year? It does not exist in this village. Where are the records and documents of who owns what and what they're doing in the village that's supposed to be public information? You opened the door to this, Claire.
No, we didn't open any doors.
You
Let's,
made a speech, which you're entitled to do. I'm not sure why. I mean, you've never made this speech before.
No,
Haven't
because,
made-
wait,
well, let
time
me
out.
address you
I did,
because
make
because
the
there was a
speech because
document
there was a
sent
document sent,
to
and
village
then
residents.
residents were asking, why don't we have an accountant? Why don't we do this? Why don't we have an auditor?
There's
Why
a
don't we have
document
any?
sent by,
So I wanted transparency as what we do as a village.
there was a document sent with a list of obligations by villages, simply copied out of a book of code. And it said, we should have this, and we should have that, we should have this.
Which
We
we
have,
comply with.
we complied with every one of them, but it implied that we did not.
Where is your financial disclosures? It's in your own code. How could you not? I can understand if you're missing 1 month, 1 year, somebody came new on the board. Why does it not exist?
She'll answer.
And where's your ethics
So
board?
that requirement comes under New York State law. I don't know that we could have superseded that. But it's not required for villages that have populations less than, villages or cities that have populations less than 50,000 people. But I'll look at the code that was the chapter.
But
that you
it's in
told
the code, regardless of what New York State says, the code adopted in 2013 is very, very specific. It gives specific dates and times. The mayor and all elected officials and employees are required to file this annually and immediately after election. And how do we not have these records? How do we not have a 5-member board of ethics that many people on this board were there and adopted it?
Yeah, so, as far as the Board of Ethics, it's my understanding that if we do not appoint one, that the Suffolk County Board of Ethics is a Board of Ethics, but,
Doesn't say it in our code. though.
yeah, but I'll review that section.
If that is the case, has the Suffolk County Board of Ethics ever stepped into any situation here? If that is the
They don't
default.
step in
They don't step in there.
Well, they have to, but they have to
They're
have the
referred to from the
financial,
village.
they have to have the financial documents in order to be reviewed. Has the financial disclosures been sent to the Suffolk County Board of Ethics, given that we don't have our own? Because that's what it says. The Board of Ethics is supposed to review the financial disclosures. But if we have, has this village sent them? I don't think
Does
so.
Does New York State supersede the law?
Uh,
Village law,
I have to look at the law, I know,
but New York State supersedes any village law around it.
No.
Financial disclosures.
you can adopt it, you can adopt it.
Because you adopted
But I'll take a look at what they're talking about.
Why would you adopt the code that you're not following? I mean, you adopted it. It wasn't.
And Claire, just to address one thing you did say, I found a Newsday article right after the audit. You did not come out in flying, in shining stars, or whatever term you use. The Newsday title of the article said, West Hampton Dunes Village finances in disarray, state controller reports.
Yes,
So
And what were the findings? The findings were what they find in every other village. They always have to have certain findings.
Every
But there's
village have
no,
a Newsday
there's
article?
no money problems, there's no issues, there were no problems with it. It's what
Did
they,
every village have a Newsday article?
you know what, the audit speaks for itself. Anybody interested, I just highly recommend it's
Right.
easily available. You
Right.
can Google it and you can certainly see that all the problems that the
we had a
controller.
we had,
they tried to find anything they could. They were here for 18 months. It turned out that the accountant that we have is the accountant for Suffolk County. And when we had the exit audit, Ira McCracken was there. He was not there for the Suffolk County Village audit.
and at the end, there were absolutely,
And there were no
there were no
issues at all.
corrective issues.
So Newsday might have written or did something, but there was nothing that came out of it at all.
There were no
Suggesting the
corrective-
media
If you
is
read the
actually
audio,
putting
you'll
out
see.
something
The
that's not
media
true.
might say something untrue. Yes, they might.
That doesn't happen.
What about the actual audit? Is that also untrue?
We just answered.
We just answered that question.
No, you said the
No,
newspaper
the
was.
newspaper's untrue, but the audit speaks for
actual
itself.
audit
Anybody
speaks
can read it.
Yeah, read the audit, you'll see
The audit
there's nothing is,
Speak.
there is
I wouldn't
nothing.
use the term that Claire used to.
Well, that's your choice.
Open, our books are open.
I certainly-
Come and examine it. You can do an independent audit. I think we would make the books available, so if you
Did
want
we
to hire.
did we get the independent audit yet to this year?
No, it's in the original.
No,
stated
because
that
we're
was-
waiting for last year. We had an auditor, no, an accountant that we used in the very beginning of the village, who was terrible. We fired him. We got a new accountant. She was fabulous. Then we had an auditor that we, as the village, used. During COVID, they stopped auditing. We had very few people that would audit for us. So we went back to the original person, even though I didn't want to do that. And he is still dragging his feet. We just about got the audit completed at the end. So we didn't use him again. We went to a new auditor who is better, and he's trying to complete everything, but we're still dragging and getting the information out of the previous audit. We're very
The
behind.
auditor you said was terrible, we used again?
We had no choice. We needed an auditor, so we did use him. We thought that, other villages, we went to 3 villages and they said, he's okay. Even though I didn't want to use him, there was no other option. So we needed an auditor.
I think it's important to look at the whole issue. Several years, right after Hurricane Sandy, we exhausted a lot of our funds, even some of our emergency funds. So the state controller comes in and put us in a condition that I was furious over, because he said we were financially at risk. I think within 2 years, we've reached full status of a financially stable condition. We've been here for 30 years. We've maintained a tax base and a tax rate at a relatively simple, same construct. We've done nothing but we have a tremendous reserve. We have a tremendous emergency reserve. We're in better financial shape than any other village on the East End.
Press the 2% tax cut.
And we have never
No,
pierced the 2%.
But every village,
So if that's the case, then why didn't your response state that? Your response to the audit stated that you weren't around during the audit and it wasn't your responsibility. You didn't state that the audit or the issue of the financial had anything to do with Sandy. You said you were out sick and Claire was taking care of you. That was your response to the audit.
Don't know,
That's on your village website.
don't know, well, I don't know what you're looking at, when Newsday, Instagram us or whatever
This is
happened.
the audit that the Napoli
Your
did.
response to
that
the
was-
audit.
And we found this, it's posted on the village website. And
Oh,
the response to the audit was that I was sick, Claire was my caregiver, we weren't responsible for what was happening in the village during that time.
I don't
No,
know.
I don't.
I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
gotta
sorry.
be,
I
that's
don't
gotta be in the
recall
very
ever saying
beginning,
that.
yeah,
I'm
no.
not it's smart.
On the village website, Gary, it's not.
Well, no, it's on letterhead, the village response. You guys wrote that.
That may have been the preliminary information, but that was not the end of the audit.
I give you the facts again. The condition of this village's finances are terrific. They're better than any village that I know of. But you choose to make a political decision.
I'm not saying the finances.
No, I
This
know.
was- We responded to Claire. If Claire didn't say what she said, we would have never raised anything. But this was in pure response to Claire. She brought up the audit. If we didn't,
She mentioned the audit was requiring colors and the Natalie said it wasn't. And your response was, I wasn't responsible, not that it had anything to do with Hurricane Sandy.
I don't believe that was my response.
You're looking right now. But whatever.
I'm not gonna do
I
that.
think we're due for the
I think we're
constable's
done there.
report. Constable's
I'd like to
report.
get control of this meeting.
Yeah.
We're moving on. Joe, you have a report.
No, constables, right?
Oh, the most important,
Brian,
Brian.
Yes.
You're up.
Put the gun down and come in.
Wake up.
So I'm sure if some of you noticed, the speed sign is up and running now.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a little funky. There's an issue with the programming, but
Yeah.
we're working on it. But at least for now, it's working. And obviously the summer is in full swing, so we really need you to help us to tell us when you're disturbed. And, you know, if there's something that's bothering you, there's a neighbor issue, whatever it is, come to us. Call us while it's in progress. I know I said this the last meeting, but I just want to reiterate, because we already had a few things that were brought up after the fact, so we just want to make sure that we resolve them. And, that's it. If there's something else if anyone wants to bring anything up, Gary, you're more than welcome to,
Yeah, of
bring it up.
Anybody have anything for the constables?
we think you're all great.
Thank you for the support.
Anything?
Joe, you're up.
First thing I wanted to mention was, I don't think anybody mentioned it at the meeting, so, if you did and I missed it, I'm sorry, but I wanted to compliment the village on, whoever rearranged the space, it's great. And we've never had space like this before, and thank you.
Make the date.
Just
pick a date.
Thank you for doing that. The second thing I want to mention is that, we had a retainer proposed to us by Stephen Leventhal and John Champoli to represent the village clerk during the election. It's at a rate of $350 an hour. I'm asking that the village please approve that retainer. The board please approve that retainer now.
Say it was John Champoli. And that was it, right?
It's Stephen. She's gonna give me the answer to the question.
So there were two, Stephen Leventhal and John Champoli.
That's what you said. That's what I was gonna ask. Two firms?
No.
no.
Who's John Chappelle?
He used to be the Nassau County attorney. He was-
Yeah. That's correct.
He won the election from Megano, so.
Joe, you want to handle
So,
this?
yeah, Joe.
My recommendation, we have a proposed retainer from Stephen Leventhal and John Champoli to represent the village clerk during the election. It's at a rate of $350 an hour. Each one, whatever time they put in will be $350 an hour. They've at her basically beck and call, whenever.
Yeah.
Robin feels that she needs a question answered.
Sure, you couldn't have done anything better than Leventhal?
John Champoli is recognized as one of the. Pardon me?
It's only one. But they're both gonna be there?
Yes, they're both gonna be there. They're both available to the village clerk. During the election process. And one or both of them will be available for the election. At least one of them will be there.
Okay.
Do you know the firm, Gary?
Leventhal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spoken to him several times.
Do you have an objection?
The retainer this is a retainer, so it's
To be,
billable versus a retainer, yeah?
It's billable. It's $350
Right.
for any time.
Right.
$350 an hour for any time,
Okay.
either one or both.
Good. Okay, I approve both.
Within.
I approve both.
make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Aye. Gary opposed?
All right, the second thing the next thing I have is, one of the things that we're working on with the Department of State is, the Department of State has a, Department of State adopted regulations under the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, where they have what's called the minimum requirements. There's by regulation, there's minimum requirements, that every village should have in their building code, the village building code, not the state building code. And it's things like, how long a building permit lasts, how many times you can renew it. You can't use a space without a C of O, things like that. No alterations without a building permit or C of O. So they have a fairly extensive model law that they provided to us that they would like us to consider adopting. I pared it down a little bit and I circulated it to the board for you to review and then, so we can discuss it. There's really nothing to discuss tonight. What I'm gonna do, I just want to make you aware of this. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the sections that they have and match it up into our existing section 2, chapter 220, and merge their minimum requirements with the requirements that are in chapter 220, and then propose it for adoption by the board. The next thing I have is the constables have requested a provision in our village code regarding the impounding of vehicles. We are allowed to impound vehicles under the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law. But the request is that we have specific rates in our code so that if somebody gets impounded, we could charge them an impound fee and also a daily rate, for the storage of the vehicle until it's recovered. There is a proposed agreement. We would have the proposal is that, as I understand, is to have 3 different towing companies. This would not be part of local law, but the procedure that we would develop is that there would be several towing companies that would be available for call, not just one, if we needed one. And but we would have a tow yard, we would have an impound yard that we use by agreement with the same one I think that West Hampton Beach uses. So I'm gonna have that for the board.
So is that for, can I ask a quick question? Is that for if a vehicle's only in public areas, roadway, easement, parking lots?
Yeah.
It's in a private-
For suspensions and revocations on the. Because we have
Right.
to move the plates and.
But what if it's in a private residence?
Can't tow from a private residence, not for an impound. It has to be parked in public areas.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, what if the resident requires it?
yeah,
A resident can.
Yeah.
can
Right.
take
Resident
all, but
can
it's very
actually-
rare that the tow truck company will take, it's hard to get it towed off of private property. We have more creative ways to help residents if they have a car that's parked in their driveway. We haven't had that in years. Though.
So these would be 2 types of cars. So basically, it would be a car that drives into the village with a suspended something.
Right.
So it shouldn't be on the road. A car that shouldn't be on the road that we identify. That it shouldn't be on the road. And it would also be if we ever have the instance of an abandoned vehicle. So those are the 2 under the vehicle and traffic law, New York State vehicle and traffic law. Those are the 2 situations where you can impound cars. And we just need to have a change in our code. The next thing that I would like to bring to the board's attention is we had a transfer tax proposed, a transfer tax resolution proposed and approved. We sent it to Assemblyman Thiel's office a while ago. His staff reviewed it and said that they in order to move it forward, they wanted to match up with the provisions of the Peconic Bay tax. So I spent a lot of time one night making sure that it word for word it matched up with the Peconic Bay tax. At the last meeting, I reported this to you, and you told me to go ahead and send it to Fred Thiel, which I did.
Tony Palumbo.
And Palumbo. I notified Palumbo's office. I wanted to make sure that that was agreeable with Fred Thiel's office before I did it, because I didn't want to be disrespectful to him. Fred Thiel has responded. They reviewed the most recent version. They say that it's still not, there's still portions of it that don't match up to the Peconic Bay tax. I have to figure out what they are. They didn't say what they are, they just said they don't match up. So I'm gonna go through it again.
The part where they get the money now is.
Yeah, but this is, I know. But they did say that, we can forward it to, Senator Palumbo. So
Yeah,
we'll,
I spoke to him.
send it over to, Senator Palumbo and, work on that. I think that's all I have for my report, unless anybody has a question for me.
Well, you have
That the resolution.
742 on the agenda.
We voted on that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a delay to the plan.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm sorry, so we have, at the next meeting, which I think you should have before before June 21st.
yeah.
I don't-
14th.
June 14th, okay, so I would like to have a public hearing on that, and then night
15th.
on the local law for the impound paragraph, and then also if we can get it done, the model law for the New York State Department of State.
Good.
If that's agreeable with the board, is that okay with the board?
That's good with me.
Can we just vote to do that, please?
Yeah.
Mary?
Second
Motion by-
Second by Mike.
motion.
Thank you.
All right. We have
I have
some,
a question,
Yes.
not non-political question about the election and in reference to hiring the attorneys that you suggested. People are asking, what is going to be the procedure, I think it's probably more of a question of Robin, but the procedure for the early balloting, how are you going to receive them? How are you going to secure them? Are you putting them in a box, dropping them in a locked box in an envelope in a safe? How is that going to be handled when people send in ballots early and not on election day? What have you devised to make sure that it's secure and safe?
I think that we're working that out now, aren't we? And,
I did talk to the Suffolk Board of Elections, and she's supposed to be getting me an extra ballot box, so I can have that, put them right in.
And then will that be secured? So where will you be securing that?
I'm gonna figure it all out. I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay, I just some people are questioning, and since we were talking about it, I just wanted to know what would you kind of expect to have an answer for that? So,
well, the ballots won't even be ready till next week. We'll have it before the end of the week.
Hopefully by the end of next week.
thank you.
It affects all the candidates.
Well, I said, it's not a political question,
No.
just a procedural question.
That's correct.
You talked about it, and I'm happy that you're hiring counsel to help Robin guide her. And I just want to know if there was a procedure in place, what you've used in the past, or what you're planning on using this time.
well, mail-in ballots weren't allowed.
Well, there's been a lot of changes in the mail-in ballots,
I know.
and, so, but we'll go working through it and we'll have it by next week.
Well, you had absentee ballots in the past, so you must have had a way to secure that.
Yeah, we had
It's the same, similar.
well, it's actually not the same. There's some very serious differences that can invalidate a vote. So we're making sure everything is done exactly to the law, as we always do.
It wasn't illegal, okay. I wasn't talking about the law, Gary, I was talking about procedural, but that's fine.
No, but I was saying that, make sure the procedure is done exactly according to the law.
Yes, so to close the meeting, we would, have our normal resolution. So the first if it's agreeable with the board, the first resolution is a resolution approving the vouchers that were submitted, but for approval by the board's reviewed all the vouchers.
Motion.
That's agreeable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Aye.
And opposed.
The second resolution is, if this is what the board would like to do, is a resolution waiving the reading of the minutes of the April 2024 Board of Trustees meeting.
Told you for a minute. All right. Make a motion. All right. So, there's meeting. Lisa, I know you think they right. Okay, continue.
So it would be a motion to approve a resolution to waive the reading of the minutes.
Motion,
I'll make a motion.
second, Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any public comments?
Yes.
Yes.
I just started taking some notes down after there was some conversation, so I just wanted to read this. After statements were made in number 3 of the mayor's report, and then subsequently the treasurer's report, I decided to write some thoughts down, so please forgive me for reading. I find it deeply inappropriate that the mayor chose to use a portion of this meeting to discredit village candidates by suggesting that their emails are nefarious and inaccurate, especially without providing specific evidence. This public village platform should not be used for political attacks. The mayor's statements, like those made in several previous village meetings, misuses a public meeting intended for village business. As a resident, I urge all candidates, including the mayor, to respect this forum and use it appropriately, focusing on village issues rather than casting unfounded aspersions on others. If any statement were to be made by the mayor, it should be to encourage everyone to thoroughly research each candidate's platform, verify information from reliable, unbiased sources, and to do their civic duty of voting.
I think you missed some of the things I said, because one thing I did say was, please, let's make sure we vote. And I did not peg any individual
I
candidate
didn't say that you
with the
can't have
misstatements.
individual candidates.
So I could give you specific.
I didn't say anything about a specific candidate. I just said
No, but I
that
can
it's
give you specific.
unprofessional and not
Oh,
the
thank
right
you.
use of this forum.
Thank you.
I don't want that on the record.
Do we have any comments on the online, Robin?
No.
You could have said that there's a lot of emails going out for the political process, and it would behoove the public to vet the emails and make sure they're accurate, but instead you took a negative approach about it. And that was not appropriate at today's meeting. Today's meeting was not supposed to be
This is public
political.
comment.
This is public comment.
We have a
I
right to speak.
received an email in the office that said, you should get an accountant. Don't you think the village should have an accounting firm? I mean, it's obvious.
What does that have to do with anything, Claire? I'm not sure.
Well, because that was.
Well, because it was from an email that they sent to us with it, that they said, we see this, we have this, why don't you have an accounting firm? Why don't you have an accountant in the village? So I was just defending what we do in the village, what I do. I don't care what anyone else does. I know what I do, and I just wanted to defend
The
that.
fact is, I did encourage everyone to vote. It's a very important
No.
process.
We didn't say about vote.
You didn't say that.
You disparaged your opponents
Yep.
by saying that they sent out information that was inaccurate.
I didn't say inaccurate, I just
No, I
said
did.
what I received.
Nefarious, actually.
I
That was
just-
nefarious that Gary
I
used.
don't think that, my recollection is that, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but my recollection is, I'm just interjecting this, is that he did not say that a candidate had sent an email.
That's right.
He said that there were emails.
He said there were emails.
I believe that
That's
that's.
incorrect. He said there are emails from candidates being sent around.
No.
No, I didn't hear that.
It's supposed to be recorded, so we'll see.
But I encourage, if anybody has any questions through the process. I encourage them
Regardless,
to ask the questions.
in my opinion, as a resident, I think it was an inappropriate use of this village meeting to be focused on politics instead of village issues.
I don't
This
think.
has been a repeated
That's fine.
issue, and it's one of the reasons why I become very vocal at these meetings. Having
Make
nothing to do
sure
with
this is
my
okay on the
family,
bid.
having nothing
This
to
is
do
a
with
bid,
my background.
this is a
I've
bid
had
check.
enough of this.
This is a bid check, so we should make sure that that's.
Thank you for your comments. I don't agree.
I'm aware of that, Gary. I think we all know that.
We want to turn to exam four, I just want to just have one.
Okay.
There's a litigation, potential litigation.
We're gonna adjourn the meeting for, that's good.
What? He wants to run it by Stanley.
Oh, okay,
Who really
fine,
is the
fine.
head of the
Okay.
bid, so.
Yeah, because I just want to know before I should pay it, right?
Yeah, okay,
We need adjournment to go into executive session
okay, I'll make a
to
motion.
discuss.
I'll
We're
second
gonna
that.
It's,
adjourn to executive session.
a personnel matter, it's a personnel matter and also, potential litigation.
So we need the room and we need
Oh,
to
I don't
terminate
know.
the call.
What?
With the caveat that we may come back in
Oh, I can't
15 or 20 minutes. Half hour.
5 minutes. 30
I
minutes.
don't go to Harvey anyway.
Not all night.
Thank God. I'm sorry, I had to do that. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, return.
Don't care.
They haven't.
But I think it was excellent, and it was